I looked at him and saw a man falling apart. He had lost his job, his confidence, his direction. Part of me felt sorry for him. Part of me wanted to hold him, calm him down, help him find a way back. But another part of me couldn't forget what he had done while he was falling. The lies, the hiding, the debt he put in both our names. The way his crisis stopped being just his and became something I had to carry too. And that was the most painful place I've ever lived in, wanting to save someone who was dragging me down with him. Before we get into this, tell me in the comments, have you ever felt pity and rage at the same time towards someone you loved? Have you ever looked at someone and seen that they were struggling, broken, ashamed, maybe even drowning, and still felt furious because of what they had done to you while they were drowning? If you've ever been in that kind of emotional split, I want to hear from you. And while you're there, tell me where you're watching from. I always love seeing where you all are and how these stories resonate with women in so many different places. Stay with me until the end, because today we're talking about one of the most exhausting emotional traps there is, when compassion for someone else's pain starts making you betray your own. There is a particular kind of suffering that comes from holding two truths at the same time and not knowing how to live inside both of them. The first truth is, he is not okay. He is falling apart. He may be ashamed, lost, scared, addicted, depressed, financially spiraling, emotionally unstable, or just deeply broken in ways that are painful to witness. You can see his suffering. You can see the fear in him. You can see the damage. And because you are human, because you loved him, because you are not made of stone, part of you feels compassion. Real compassion. But then there is the second truth. While he was falling apart, he hurt you. Not in some abstract way. Not in some distant, theoretical sense. He lied. He hid things. He made choices that landed in your life too. He put debt in both your names. He damaged your sense of safety. He turned his crisis into your burden. And now you are not just watching someone suffer. You are living inside the fallout of what his suffering did to you. That is where the emotional chaos begins. Because if you only felt anger, things might seem clearer. If you only felt pity, things might seem simpler. But when you feel both at once, when your heart pulls in opposite directions, you can start living in a kind of moral exhaustion that is almost impossible to explain to other people. 1 minute you want to comfort him. The next minute you want to scream. 1 minute you see the sadness in his face and feel your chest cave in. The next minute you remember the bills, the lies, the fear, the betrayal, and you feel sick with rage. And because many women have been taught to overvalue compassion, to over-identify with other people's pain, and to mistake understanding for obligation, this kind of emotional conflict can become a prison. You start asking yourself impossible questions. How do I be kind without abandoning myself? How do I admit that he is suffering without erasing what he did to me? How do I walk away from someone broken without feeling cruel? How do I stay without disappearing inside the damage? This episode is about that impossible middle. The place where love doesn't feel pure, anger doesn't feel clean, and compassion starts to become dangerous because it makes you doubt your own right to protect yourself. Because seeing his pain is human. But turning that pain into a reason to keep drowning beside him is something else. Let's imagine Hannah's story. Hannah had been with Evan for 6 years. They had built a shared life in all the normal ways people do. Shared rent, shared routines, shared plans, shared accounts, shared responsibilities. It wasn't a flashy relationship, but it was serious. They had talked about marriage, about buying a house, about the future in that quiet adult way that makes two lives start weaving into one. Then Evan lost his job. At first, Hannah responded the way many loving partners do. She tried to be steady, supportive, encouraging. She told him they would get through it, that this was temporary, that losing work didn't mean losing worth. She gave him space to grieve without making him feel small. She took on more emotionally, more practically, more financially. She understood that this was a hard season, and that being in a real partnership meant carrying each other sometimes. But slowly, something started shifting. Evan wasn't just discouraged. He became secretive, defensive, avoidant. There were small things Hannah noticed, but kept rationalizing. Charges that didn't make sense. Late notices she didn't remember seeing before. Statements he brushed off. Conversations he dodged. Mood swings that seemed bigger than the moment called for. Sometimes he looked ashamed, other times irritable, sometimes withdrawn, other times weirdly overconfident in promises that didn't line up with reality. Hannah asked questions, but Evan always had an answer. He was handling it. It wasn't a big deal. He didn't want to burden her. He had a plan. She was overreacting. And because she wanted to believe him, she kept giving him the benefit of the doubt. Then one day, the truth arrived all at once. She found out he had been taking out debt in both their names. Bills had been left unpaid. Money had been moved around. There were financial decisions he had made without her knowledge, some desperate, some reckless, all hidden. What she had thought was just one man struggling with unemployment was actually a much darker spiral, one that had already reached into her own financial life. That discovery broke something in her instantly, because now this was no longer just about being there for someone during a hard time. This was about betrayal, exposure, consequence, damage, real damage. When she confronted him, Evan finally cracked.
He cried.
He admitted he had been terrified, ashamed, panicking. He said he didn't know how to tell her. He said he felt like a failure. He said he had been trying to fix it before she found out. He looked broken in a way Hannah had never seen before. And that was the moment the split inside her became unbearable. Because she believed that he was suffering. She really did. She could see it. She could feel it. She wasn't looking at a cold villain untouched by what had happened. She was looking at someone unraveling in front of her. But she was also looking at the person who had dragged her into the unraveling. That's what made the pain so difficult to hold. She wanted to hold him and push him away at the same time. She wanted to say, "I know you're hurting," and "How could you do this to me?" in the same breath. She wanted to help and to run. And because no one prepares women for that emotional contradiction, Hannah started turning the conflict inward. Instead of asking, "What do I need now?" she started asking, "How do I not become cruel to someone who is clearly falling apart?" And that question kept her stuck much longer than the facts alone have. So why is this kind of emotional conflict so devastating? Because compassion and injury do not cancel each other out. They coexist. And when a woman can see the other person's pain clearly, but also carry the consequences of what he has done, she may start feeling guilty for fully validating her own wound. That is a dangerous place to live. Hannah was not confused because she didn't know what had happened. She was confused because she knew too much. She knew Evan was suffering. She knew he was ashamed. She knew losing his job had shaken his identity. She knew some of his choices came from panic, fear, desperation, maybe even addictive or compulsive patterns. But she also knew he had lied, hidden, signed her into a problem she didn't agree to carry, put her financial future at risk, disturbed the ground beneath her life. Both were true. And that is where so many women get trapped. They think that if the other person is genuinely suffering, then their own anger must somehow be less valid. They think if they can understand why he did it, then maybe they should be softer, more patient, more forgiving, less impacted. They begin unconsciously using empathy as a weapon against themselves. That looks like feeling guilty for being furious, feeling heartless, for wanting distance, feeling disloyal, for prioritizing your own safety, feeling cruel, for not wanting to rescue someone who is clearly in pain. But understanding someone's pain does not erase the damage they caused. And this matters especially in relationships where women have been trained to overfunction. To soothe, stabilize, hold, rescue, organize, regulate, forgive, and remain emotionally available even when they themselves are collapsing. Hannah could feel that conditioning inside her. A part of her kept saying, "He needs help. He's not okay. Don't make this worse. Don't abandon someone at their lowest." But another part of her was screaming, "What about me? What about what this did to my nervous system? What about the fear? What about the betrayal? What about the debt?" That split can become emotionally paralyzing. Because now she is no longer just making a practical decision about whether to stay or leave. She is wrestling with the fear of becoming a bad person in her own eyes. She worries that choosing herself will make her heartless. That stepping back from the relationship will mean she failed someone who is drowning. that refusing to carry the consequences of his breakdown means she lacks compassion. But that is where clarity becomes essential. Compassion is not the same as consent. Understanding is not the same as obligation. And pity is not a contract that requires you to keep absorbing damage. Evan's pain was real, but so was the debt. So was the lying. So was the fear he handed her. So was the humiliation of realizing that while he was unraveling, he had made her responsible for consequences she never chose. That is not a small thing. And the more Hannah tried to hold his suffering and ignore her own, the more resentment began building inside her. Not because she was cruel, but because no one can permanently survive in a position where their compassion is being fed while their own pain is being starved. That's what makes this dynamic so destructive. She isn't only hurt by what he did. She is hurt by the fact that his visible suffering makes her question whether she is allowed to take her own side. And once that starts happening, a woman can become trapped in a relationship long after she knows it is harming her, simply because she cannot bear the idea of leaving someone broken behind. But the truth is, staying with someone out of pity while you are actively being damaged is not love. It is emotional self-abandonment dressed up as loyalty. And this is where the deepest damage begins. Inside her. Because after enough time living between compassion and rage, Hannah stopped feeling like one person. She started feeling split in half. One half of her saw Evan sitting at the edge of the bed, hollow-eyed, ashamed, crushed by the weight of what he had done and what he had become. That half of her remembered the man she loved, the vulnerability in him, the fear in him, the very real collapse of his life. That part of her wanted to comfort him, bring him water, ask if he had eaten, tell him they would figure something out. The other half of her saw the statements, the numbers, the late notices, the signatures, the secrecy, the fact that he had pulled her into risk without her consent. That part of her felt furious, sick, exposed, deeply betrayed. That part wanted to shake him and ask how he could look at her every day while hiding something that affected both of them so profoundly. And because both halves were real, Hannah could not fully relax into either one. She couldn't just hate him because she could still see his pain. She couldn't just comfort him because her own pain was screaming too loudly. She couldn't leave cleanly because guilt followed her. She couldn't stay peacefully because resentment followed her. That is emotional torment. And what made it even harder was the way it started changing how she saw herself. She began feeling guilty for her anger, guilty for her exhaustion, guilty for wanting space, guilty for resenting someone who is already down. That guilt ate into everything. She stopped trusting her own anger, even though her anger was trying to protect her. She began thinking of her rage as cruelty instead of information. She started questioning whether she was being too harsh, too cold, too unforgiving. Meanwhile, the consequences of what he had done did not magically disappear just because she pitied him. That is the trap. Her emotional attention stayed on his suffering, while her own body kept absorbing the cost. She couldn't sleep. She kept replaying conversations. She kept checking numbers, bills, statements, timelines. She felt anxious and heavy at the same time. She became afraid of the future, afraid of money, afraid of what else she didn't know. And in the middle of all of that, she was still trying to remain compassionate. That kind of self-division is exhausting. At some point, Hannah realized she had stopped asking the most basic question of all, what is staying here doing to me? She had become so focused on not abandoning a broken man that she had quietly started abandoning herself. And that realization was brutal, because she did not want to be the kind of person who walked away from someone at their lowest. But she also could not keep ignoring the fact that his lowest point had become a sinkhole under both of them. She wasn't just witnessing his collapse. She was living inside the consequences of it. That is when she began understanding something that changed everything. His pain and his responsibility were not the same thing. Her compassion and her obligation were not the same thing. And feeling sorry for him did not require staying in a situation that was destroying her. That is a very difficult truth for many women to claim. But it is necessary. Because the moment your empathy starts silencing your own reality, it stops being pure compassion and starts becoming self-erasure. Hannah did not need to become colder to survive. She needed to stop confusing kindness with permission to keep being harmed. And if you are in this kind of place, I want to say something clearly. You are not heartless for being angry at someone who is suffering. And you are not disloyal for wanting to protect yourself from the damage their suffering created. Both truths are allowed to exist. His pain is real. Yours is too. And pretending otherwise will only keep splitting you in half. So let me close this episode with one very clear truth. Understanding his pain may be human. Turning that into a reason to keep drowning beside him is something else. And that distinction matters. Because a lot of women stay trapped in situations like this not because they are confused about the facts, but because they are morally trapped by their own empathy. They can see the man suffering too clearly to become cold. They can see the shame, the collapse, the fear, the humanity in him. And because of that, they begin treating their own anger like a failure of character instead of a valid response to real damage. But anger is not always cruelty. Sometimes anger is clarity. Sometimes anger is self-respect finally refusing to disappear. Sometimes anger is the last intact part of you saying, "This mattered. This hurt. This cannot keep happening." Hannah was not wrong to feel sorry for Evan. His pain was real. Losing his job had shaken him. The shame was real. The collapse was real. But none of that erased the reality that he had hidden things, made financial decisions in both their names, and turned his private spiral into a shared crisis without her consent. That mattered too. And this is what she had to learn the hard way. Compassion is not a binding contract. It does not require you to sacrifice your stability just because someone else is unstable. It does not require you to finance, emotionally or literally, the damage someone caused while they were unraveling. It does not demand that you stay loyal to a situation that is actively injuring you. You are allowed to be heartbroken for him and still say no. You are allowed to understand him and still protect yourself. You are allowed to grieve what happened to him and still refuse to go down with him. Because the moment your pity becomes the reason you ignore what is happening to you, the relationship stops being a place of care and becomes a place of self-abandonment. And self-abandonment never heals anyone. Not you. Not him. Not the relationship. It only keeps the damage alive. If he lost his footing, that is tragic. But if he used the ground beneath both of you to keep himself standing a little longer, that is not something your compassion has to excuse. If his fear made him dishonest, that fear may deserve understanding, but the dishonesty still left consequences in your life. Real ones. Concrete ones. Heavy ones. And no amount of pity pays a shared debt. No amount of empathy restores a broken sense of safety on its own. No amount of love erases the fact that he took you into the fall with him. So if you are standing in that impossible middle, wanting to hold him and run from him at the same time, hear this clearly. You do not have to choose cruelty in order to choose yourself. You do not have to stop caring in order to stop sinking. And you do not have to keep proving your goodness by letting someone else's collapse become your home. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is tell the truth about what staying is doing to you. Even if he is hurting. Even if you still care. Even if part of you will always feel sad for him. Because his pain is real. But yours does not disappear. Are beside it. Now I really want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever felt pity and rage at the same time towards someone you loved? What hurt the most, seeing their pain, living with the damage they caused, or feeling guilty for wanting to protect yourself? Share your story, because your experience might help another woman realize that compassion does not have to mean going down with someone who is already sinking. And if this episode spoke to you, like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one.